everyone, and welcome to Time and Money Mastery. We are your co-hosts. I'm Indiana.
And I'm Sam. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on any of our episodes. Now, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Time and Money Mastery. You're here with your co-host, Sam, and today I'm joined with the absolutely incredible Emily Jane. You might have heard of her on Instagram. Her tag is Empower with M. If you haven't already heard of her, I am absolutely certain that by the end of this podcast episode, you're going to be following her, engaging with her content, and absolutely loving everything she puts out there. In the short time that I've known her, I've been completely obsessed with her energy and everything that she shares. So I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, my voice. I'm so sorry. I'm so excited to welcome Emily Jane to the podcast.
Hi, Sam. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Of course. And I feel like this was just a match made in heaven. Everything that you talk about on your platforms is everything that Indiana and I stand for as well. So I'm so excited for our listeners to be able to get to know you a little bit and get to know what you're all about. So tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, so pretty much my name's Emily Jane, or otherwise known as Empower with M. I'm a podcaster and also a mindset and empowerment coach. So I haven't always been podcasting and I haven't always been coaching either. 2020 was a pretty transformative year for me. I used to be in architecture. I was working in the architecture industry at a 9-to-5 job. And I was also studying my master's. So I'd completed my bachelor's, dove into my master's, but it was halfway through last year where I came to the realization that I was following this career that just was in no way aligned with me, was in no way bringing me fulfillment, and in no way was something that I actually had a vision for my future with. So I decided to take the massive leap of faith, and because I had been running my podcast in the background of studying and working, and I just found that all my time I was investing into that. It was what I was passionate about. It was what was bringing me joy. So I figured, well, why the heck not? I'm young. I've got some confidence in me. Let's just take this risk. Let's just go chase something else and build a business for myself instead of going back to uni. So that's what I did. I dropped out of my master's midway, and I was like, in 6 months' time, I'm going to be a coach. I'm going to have my own business. This is happening come 2021. That's here what I'm doing now. So yeah, that's a little bit of my backstory.
Oh my God, look at you now, because you're exactly right. It's been such a short amount of time and so much has happened for you. Well, first of all, congratulations on taking that leap. I can totally relate to the feeling of being in a 9-to-5, studying and being like, is this even for me? Am I here because I feel like it's what I have to do, or because I'm too scared to actually make the decisions I know that would be aligned with my dream life? So I think that is such a cool thing that you've done. And it's quite a great perspective you've taken as well, because, your perspective was, I'm young, I might as well try it now. So many of my friends who decide to stick it out in uni, they're like, oh, I'm young, I might as well finish this and then see how it goes and then live my dream life after 50 years if I decide that I want to. It's just so interesting how a tiny mindset shift, which we'll talk about later, can completely change the trajectory of your life. And so tell us, what was it about, leaving the job leaving your master's and getting into this podcasting and building your business? What was that for you? How was that process for you? Were you absolutely terrified, or were you kind of just like, oh yeah, this is totally for me, I'm totally fine?
I mean, there was lots of mixed feelings, but for the most part, it was excitement, right? I had this vision for myself. I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to become. And it's just exciting to be able to chase after that. So for me, there was obviously a lot of nerves involved, because obviously, quitting work, quitting degrees, they're big decisions to make. So there was a lot of thought and self-reflection that did have to go into it. So what I sort of found myself doing in the first half of 2020 was just self-reflecting, and constantly diving deeper and deeper and deeper, exploring the ways that I was feeling, because I just found that I was miserable in my degree. It was having an impact on my mental health, on the way that I was physically showing up. I was just unhappy. And so I started to reflect on that and ask myself, well, why am I feeling this way? There's obviously a reason why I'm feeling this way. So tap into that, unpack that. And so through doing that, that kind of showed me that the path I was following was just out of alignment with everything that I wanted in life. So then what I decided to do was create a plan. I was like, okay, well, clearly this isn't what I want to do, but I can't just drop everything and then expect things to happen for me. So I created a plan and I said to myself, okay, well, look, you've got the podcast, you've got a social media that's slowly building, like you've got a foundation somewhat set. How can you actually turn this into a business for yourself? How can you actually create an income and find a way to, you know, make an impact at the same time as making an income through all this? So I sat down and I literally did this massive brainstorm and I was like, podcast, like arrow coming off here, arrow coming off there. I can do this and that and this and that. And that was like basically my planning. And then from there, it was just a hell of a lot of setting time frames, you know, setting timelines. When do I want to resign by? Like, when do I want to drop out of uni by? Like, these are big markers that, you know, if you're in any sort of phase in your journey and you're working towards something, you need to make sure you have dates set, because unless you set a date, it's not going to happen. So I did my plan and then I was like, okay, in 90 days from now, in 90 days from dropping out of uni, I am going to be self-employed. So I would like put that down. I like put that out there and I was like, okay, set the date to resign. And oh my God, that was the most nerve-wracking thing of it all for me. I think in terms of like emotions, that was the scariest thing in the whole process. It wasn't actually, you know, chasing my goals that was scary. It was having to confront my boss and say, I'm sorry, but I'm going after my own thing now. So yeah, there's definitely, that kind of like went off track with what you asked, but yeah, there was definitely mixed but the most part was excitement. And you know what, if you're excited about something, run with that. Okay. And like, there are going to be fears that come up along the way, but stay focused on what that thing is that is bringing you the most excitement, the most, you know, drive. And then that's going to help you push through the fears you have.
Oh, I'm obsessed with all of that. Okay, so as you were talking, I had like 50 things. I was like, yes, 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 yes. So I literally wrote it down because I want to make sure we draw attention to all of these incredible points that you brought up. First of all, something you said really stuck with me about how you recognize that while you wanted to jump all in and do this big thing, that there was a necessity for a plan, right? You didn't want to just burn all of your boats and then pray that everything would work out, which so many people seem to think that that's what entrepreneurs and business owners do. That if you really care, you burn all the boats and you just leap for it and you don't look back. And then that's why there are so many people who go into entrepreneurship or to go into a business for themselves and they're like, did I make the biggest mistake of my life? Because they don't have anything there. They don't have a foundation, but they don't have a plan. And so something that I love to tell my coaching clients, because I just so happen to get a lot of people who are in 9-to-5s that are like, I want to quit my job. How do I do it? So just they naturally seem to gravitate to me. And the same thing, I tell them exactly the same thing, is that you always want to plan for success, but you want to prepare for failure, right? We don't want to go into a situation thinking, oh, everything is going to go wrong and be all negative about it. But you'd be completely naive to just say, oh, everything's going to work out fine as long as I have positive thinking. Like, it's not going to happen that way. And so I love that you not only like voiced it in such perfect words, but you literally put it into action. You know, you found the milestones that were like, okay, this is the big decision. This is a big move. When am I going to want to do it by? And what needs to be involved to make that happen? So I think that's so cool. And your success in such a short time frame is such a testament to how this process works. And so I love that. Second thing that I absolutely love that you said was that, you know, you were brave enough to put it out there. I know a lot of people, like even for me, when I first decided I wanted to be a coach, I told 3 people. I told my mentor who told me I should be a life coach. I told my boyfriend because we talk about everything. I told my little sister because she and I just have the best relationship ever. Like, I love my mom to death, but I was still too scared to tell her. Like that conversation you mentioned about like being terrified to confront your boss. I remember that conversation where I sat at my boss's desk and I was like, so hey, I have to talk to you. And he's like, you're quitting, aren't you? And I'm like, oh, this is so uncomfortable. Like, I didn't know how to be in that. But you're exactly right. The excitement of, yes, this is what I want to do. Like, I feel passionate about it. The impact that I get to make really carried me through those moments as well. And that was the final thing I wanted to bring up, is that you said, you know, when you feel excited, you want to chase it. I think that's so true, because I feel like our soul and our heart like knows what we're truly meant for. Like, since you're a coach as well, I'm sure you like prescribe to the idea that, you know, all the answers are within us already, right? Like, we don't need to look outwards for the answers to life. And so when our body or our soul or our heart is telling us, yes, this is the thing for you, like there's a reason for that. You know what I mean? There's a reason why you're feeling excited, and maybe it's time to tap into that. So I love that so much. So let's let's switch gears a little bit because you are a empowerment coach and I love everything that you do. Tell us a little bit about the impact that our thoughts might have on creating our reality.
Massive impact. Okay. Like just have a think about it, right? Like when are you someone who sits more so in like a positive state of mind or a negative state of mind majority of the time, right? And like if you're on the positive side of things, how does the world look to you, right? Like do you walk outside and you smile at the people walking past? Are you looking around at the finer details, like the birds and the trees, and just being grateful for everything around you? Or are you on the negative side of things and you're walking down the street and you're frustrated because the person in front of you is walking too slowly and the birds are being really noisy and like, you know what I mean? Like mindset is everything. Like the way that I like to think about it is your mindset is like a pair of sunglasses that you put on when you go outside. And the lenses of those glasses are going to determine how you're going to see the world around you. So are you wearing lenses that are positive and empowered or negative and disempowered? Right. So yeah, like, and they say all the time, our thoughts create our reality. It is what it is. If you think negatively, if you talk down to yourself or about yourself or tell yourself that you can't, then that is going to become your reality. Whereas if you tell yourself that you can and speak truth and positivity into yourself, then you're going to be so much more limitless. And I think that this is the biggest thing that helped me get to where I am now in such a short amount of time, is that from the moment I decided what I wanted to do for myself and the business I wanted to create for myself, I had two choices. The first choice was I could focus on my fears and the possibility of failing and, the possibility of being judged or criticized for doing what I was going to do. Or I could focus on an empowered mindset and be like, you know what, I've got this. There is no one who can say that I can't succeed in this, and focus on the opportunities. Like they were the two choices I was presented. And I ran with empowerment. I ran with the choice of taking on a positive and empowered mindset because I knew that that was what was going to get me further. That's what was going to get me the results that I wanted to see. And not a lot of people realize that they get to make that choice. And that's why they find themselves stuck in this disempowered place, because they simply don't know how to, first of all, acknowledge that they're there. And then second of all, rewrite the way that they're thinking.
And it's so interesting that you say that, because in so many conversations I have, like just with friends and like family members, you hear what they say and it's almost like, they do feel like they have no control over their thoughts. I have conversations where my friends are like, oh, I'm so stressed about X, Y, Z. I'm like, oh, well, what's like, I like naturally start coaching them just unintentionally. I'm like, well, what's stressing you out about it? And they're just like, oh, it's just stressful. Like they don't dig into it. They don't investigate it. And so they just accept on a surface level that work equals stress. And so of course, every time you walk into work, you're going to feel stressed, and I think it's really cool that you mentioned that, because what you look for is what you get, right? Like when you're searching for something in particular, that's what your eyes, your brain, your reticular activating system, for our science nerds out there, is looking for, you know what I mean? And so I'm absolutely obsessed with the fact that you were able to identify, I could focus on the potential judgment, potential criticism, the fears, this potentially not working out, or I could focus on the potential success and happiness and joy and everything that could come with it as well. Because you're right, in any moment we have the choice to focus on one thing over the other. And again, like your story is such a testament to how focusing on the empowering can really create an incredible reality for us. And so why do you believe, in your opinion, that having a strong mindset and rewriting our limiting beliefs is most important, or super important, I should say, to help us make the most of our time?
Well, because the only thing that's ever going to limit you in your journey through life are the limits that you're placing on yourself, right? That is the only thing that is ever going to hold you back and stop you from getting where you want to be. And I like to say that there's two things actually that are going to hold us back from getting to where it is that we want to be. And that is our mindset and that is our skill set. But the thing is that both of these limitations are completely within our control, right? And this is why it comes back to, you are only limited by what you allow to become a limit for you. So if you can do the self-reflection and acknowledge, okay, well, is it my mindset? Is it my psychology? The stories I'm telling myself, the limiting beliefs that I'm listening to, is that what's holding me back? Or is it a matter of I'm simply lacking a skill or knowledge that is necessary for me to get to the next place? identify which of the two it is, and then acknowledge the fact that you have the power to change that, right? You have the power to put the work in and gain the skills, gain the knowledge. And you also have the power to do the inner work, do the mindset work to get yourself into alignment with that mentality you need to be in to achieve all your goals. So if it's limiting beliefs holding you back, identify that, and then realize that you have the control, you have the power to be able to unlimit yourself. Because at the end of the day, you are the only person who is allowing these limits to become a reality for you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. All of that. I don't know. Like our listeners can't like see me, but I was literally nodding my head through that whole thing because I was just like, yes, girl, I feel it in my soul. You know, my last manager who like without a doubt has been one of the like most influential leaders that I had ever interacted with ever, used to tell me when he was teaching me how to manage people, would say that in any situation, people don't do what they could do, not what they want to do, but what they could do, based on two things, a skill issue or a will issue, which is quite similar to what you're saying. But what's interesting is that people are so willing to be like, oh, I don't know how to write code. And so if I wanted to learn how to write code, I know that I can go to X, Y, and Z places to learn how to write code. And that's a totally normal thing. No one will make you feel bad if you don't know how to write code, if you've never done it before, if you've never been exposed to it before. But when it comes to mindset, if you've never rewritten your limiting beliefs, if you've never identified what, you know, beliefs you have that might be holding you back, or like kind of beliefs that you need to rewrite, if you've never rewritten limiting beliefs before or any of that stuff, people think that there's something wrong with you, as if that's such a it's such a weird thing that because you've never done it before, you don't know how to do it now. So that's so true that they're both things that you can definitely change, and you do have the control to change. And now I guess my question to you, since this is about time and money mastery, what do you feel like is your number one lesson that you've learned about yourself and your time and the expectations that you've had for your own life?
This one I need a little bit of think about, but I'd probably say what comes to my mind is to kind of like stop putting things on hold, right? Like stop putting things on hold and waiting for the perfect time, or waiting for a better day or a new year, or waiting until you finish this or finish that, right? Like if you have a desire on your heart right now, then you need to go all in and chase that. Like that has been placed on your heart for a reason. And whatever it is that's holding you back from chasing that, like become clear on that so you can take the steps forward. Because for me, I think what was really holding me back, like I was aware that I wanted to leave my degree earlier than what I did, right? Like I shouldn't have even started my master's. I knew before graduating my bachelor's that I didn't want to be in this industry, but I stayed in it anyway because I had different fears and I had different opinions of other people holding me back, right? Like concerns about, okay, well, what are my parents going to think? Or what are my friends going to think? Like, oh my God, are these people going to judge me because I just invested 5 years of my life into studying to then throw it all away in quotations in their eyes, right? And so if I had just become honest with myself from that earlier point in time, then I would have taken action sooner. Okay, so I guess what my point is stop waiting. Okay, like if you know you want to do something, then just build the courage and the confidence and self-belief within yourself that your intuition is guiding you to what is your purpose or what you are meant to be doing, right? And follow that. Don't wait on it. You know, so many people get callings to create podcasts, or they want to make an impact on social media, but they're not, you know, setting a date. They're not taking the action. They're allowing their fears and different hesitations to hold them back. So, you know, if you have a desire, absolutely chase it. Do the work, like dive in deeper, figure out exactly what it is you want, where exactly it is you want to be, and stop letting other people hold you back from taking that step forward.
Oh, that is such great advice. And so for our listeners out there who are like, yes, I'm ready, Emily, how do I do this? Like, what would you say was like the first step that you took that you feel like changed the game for you, that our listeners could potentially use as their first step too?
So there's a couple of first steps I think that I took from memory. What I would have done is sat down and did my brainstorm, being like, okay, what is my vision? What is my mission? Like, that's the thing, right? Don't just focus on the first goal. Focus on the vision that you want for your life. Like, where do you want this to take you? What is your mission? What is the impact that you want to make? Because when you become clear on that, everything else seems to fall in place. And you might think, oh, this is what I want to do. But that might actually just be one small seed in the bigger sort of like garden of what it is that you're meant to be doing, right? So focus on your vision, focus on your purpose and like the impact that you want to make. And then from there, start to create your plan. But I guess before all of that, like above and beyond all of that, you have to make the decision within yourself that you are going to go all in and that you are going to choose to believe in yourself. I don't care if you've never believed in yourself in the past. Like you need to choose from today onwards that if you are wanting to chase something, you are just going to put, like unconditional confidence in yourself that you will find a way. And it's not going to be a perfect journey. It's not all going to be smooth sailing. There are going to be some failures, but just have confidence in yourself that you're going to get back up every single time that you fall down. And from getting back up, you're going to grow in so many different ways. So I know that's a bit more than what you probably asked for.
No, that is everything that we needed to hear. What's so cool is that I don't know if I've mentioned this to our listeners before, but I do like my morning incantations every single day. And one of the affirmations that I say essentially is I'm limitless, I always find a way, right? Like it presupposes not that everything's going to go my way, not that everything's going to be perfect, not that I'm not going to have setbacks, but that when I do, not if I do, when I do, that I will always find a way. And I just like when you were saying that, I was just like, I could feel that in my soul, because I think acknowledging something that you mentioned as well is that acknowledging that there will be obstacles on the way is the first step to being able to actually deal with them. Because if you go into any situation thinking, oh, it's going to be perfect, if I pretend like nothing will go wrong, then nothing will go wrong, you're just going to be so blindsided when it does. And so that is so awesome. I love that advice. Now, I just want to switch gears again just a little bit to talk a little bit about why empowerment. Like, first of all, I love that Empower with M. It's such an incredible name. I feel like you were made for this. Like your parents, when they named you, they just, I don't know, got some sort of divine message that this is what you were going to be doing, because it's just so perfect. I saw your Instagram handle and I was just like, damn, girl, that's just like amazing. So why empowerment? What got you into this? Like, why this out of anything else that you could have done?
Well, it's really funny because that's the second name. I had a bit of a name change with my podcast. So when I very, very first started the podcast, I was the Real Time Podcast, because what my sort of like, what my idea was, I was like, like I want this to be real time. Like I'm going to serve facts and just be straight up with everyone. But like that name was just very, okay, to be honest, I got that name off a Google name generator when I was like in such a rush, because I'm someone who like really, really like full steam ahead. I've got this idea. I want to start my podcast. Got to think of everything all in one day. So I went on Google name generator and that's where I got that name for. And then I stuck with it for some time. But then I was thinking more and more once I started to actually develop a business around the podcast. I was like, okay, I need to come back to the drawing board, because this podcast name doesn't scream me. Like it's not fully in alignment with me. So what I started to think about was, what do I want people to associate me with? Like when they hear the name Emily, like what do they think of? Who is Emily? Like she empowers people, like, and then the same thing when they hear the word empower, who do they think of? Oh, that Emily girl. Like that's what I was thinking, because my whole thing is about just empowering other people, right? And I guess that was my word coming into 2021. I was like, doing all these changes, taking all these steps and making all this action towards my goals made me feel empowered. And I was like, you know what? This is what I want to be about. I want to be about empowerment and helping other people step into their own self-empowerment. So it just worked out really well that, EM was also the first two letters of the word empower. So I was like, okay, it's perfect. We're going to roll with this.
It was literally when I think of empower, like if I type in empower, like as a hashtag or even anything like in my search for Instagram, you're the first person that comes up, like first you, then your podcast account. So it's like what you set out to do is totally what's happening, because when I think of empower, I think of you, which is so awesome. And so I guess my next question is more around how empowerment has impacted your life, because obviously like we can see now 6 months later or even like years later from you making these big decisions where you are now, but how has empowerment helped you in like the day-to-day of getting to where you are today?
It's really interesting because I never really thought that I was someone that struggled with, self-confidence or a lot of self-worth issues. But I came to realize the more I started diving into self-growth that these were things that I were impacted by on different levels. And it's really amazing as well, because it was only at the end of towards the end of 2020 that I really realized how much like this whole self-growth journey has developed me and how much it's strengthened me as an individual, and particularly this whole concept of empowerment, right? Because it was when when I decided I was quitting my degree and dropping out of my job, quitting my job and dropping out of my degree. That was back the front.
That's totally fine. I was just nodding my head. I was like, yes, yes, yes. I totally just kept going with it. So you're fine.
When I made that decision, at the exact same time, I went through a breakup as well. So I actually I was convinced that this was the person that I was going to spend the rest of my life with, right? So I was like really invested into that relationship. And then that ended as well. But what I found was I actually wasn't destroyed. I wasn't destroyed. Now, I know the reason why I laugh is because in past relationships, after being dumped, like I would just huddle under my doona and not want to come out for months. But this was the first time where I came out of a breakup and I felt empowered. I felt confident within myself. I felt like my self-love wasn't impacted. I was more sure about myself and who I was than ever before. And that really helped drive me forward out of that. And in fact, everyone around me, no one even knew that I had gone through a breakup.
I was literally going to say, I wouldn't have been able to guess, like looking at where you've been, like I wouldn't have guessed it at all.
And it wasn't because I was masking it or deliberately hiding it. It was that I don't know, I had just found this thing within myself, and it has to be self-empowerment to know that it's okay. It doesn't matter what else is going on around you. As long as you are sure about who you are and confident in yourself, you will make it through, and you will be able to see the opportunities for growth that are going to come from all of the challenges that you experience. So for me, that's the biggest realization that I sort of came to, was when everything seemed to kind of like be falling all over the place, I was still standing strong, and actually stronger than ever before, you know? So this is why I really want to encourage people to become more self-empowered, because it is going to change your life. It is going to benefit you in so many more ways than you ever thought possible.
Yes, that's so incredible, because I think especially with like personal development and self-help and everyone I speak to, because I've been involved in personal development for ages. Like, I don't know if you knew, but I did my bachelor's degree in psychology, and that's kind of like where all of this started. And I remember reading all of these self-help books that everyone was just like, oh, you must like have a really difficult life if you feel like you need to turn to self-help. And it's interesting because over the years, like the change in like society, people are just like, oh, have you read that self-help book? I'm like, yes, I read it when it came out 5 years ago and you're all making fun of me. But it's interesting because now more than ever, people are realizing that things like empowerment, things like self-confidence, things like personal development, they don't just impact business owners. They don't just impact entrepreneurs. They don't just impact people who study it on a day-to-day. They impact real people who just live their life, people who do their 9 to 5, people who go to university, people who go through breakups. And I think it's so cool that you were able to identify just how holistic empowerment is in our life. It's not just like a get empowered so you can start a business or start a podcast. It's, get empowered so that when the world is shaking around you, you're still standing strong, which is incredible. And you are such an inspiration. I would not have guessed, like, not that I'm saying that people who go through breakups need to like dissolve into a puddle, but at the same time, you were just like, you know what, this happened to me, but also I'm going to keep going, which I'm absolutely obsessed with. Okay. One last thing before we wrap up. And this actually, you might have already answered this anyway, but let's go for it anyway. What is one thing you wish you could tell your past self about life and where you would be now?
Just trust the process. Trust the process and have trust in divine timing, because I think for me as well, when I was back in my degree, I was doing a lot of comparison because I was surrounded by so many people online who were out chasing their dreams and living life on their terms, and I felt like I was trapped and stuck living in a life or living in a plan that wasn't one that I created for myself, and that brought me a lot of unease, a lot of unease. But I told myself in those moments, it's fine. You are exactly where you are supposed to be right now, right? And everything is heading towards the direction that it's meant to be. There are some opportunities in the place that you are now for learning and growth, and that is why you are here. That is why you are experiencing them. You have to look around and try to find them, and rather than saying I am stuck here, you say I am here because there is something for me to learn. there is some way for me to grow. And so that's probably, the biggest thing that I would express is trust the process. Stop trying to rush. Stop trying to, get to the end destination right now, because everything's unfolding in the exact timing that it's meant to be for you. Okay. So be grateful for where you are now and look for the opportunities that are surrounding you, the opportunities to learn, grow, and just enjoy the moment in your life that you are in, because that moment is fleeting and one day it's going to be gone and you're going to be at the end destination eventually, right? And this was something that sort of was a realization I came to, is that eventually you are going to get to that destination, but if you are not focusing on being present, you're not going to realize you're there, because you're going to be too fixated on the next goal, the next step that's coming, right? So draw yourself back, take a deep breath, be patient, be grateful for where you are now, and get excited about what else is to come.
Oh my gosh, you're speaking to Sam in year 12 going through her HSE, feeling like, when the heck am I going to be where I want to be? I just, that hit different. And I'm sure our listeners are also just goosebumps everywhere. Well, Emily, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I know for a fact that this is not going to be the last time that you're here. So just for our listeners, you can connect with Emily. We're going to drop a couple of links down in the show notes for her Instagram, her Facebook community. She's got a workshop coming up with products by women that you absolutely must register for, and she's also got an incredible podcast that our other co-host Indiana has been a part of, and that Em and I are discussing for me to get on there. So make sure you go ahead and have a listen to her as well. And Em, you also have dropped a link to a free ebook. Tell us a little bit about what that is, so our listeners know what they're going to be getting.
Yeah, so my free ebook is a How to Set Goals with Ease ebook. Basically, this was one of the very, very first things that I created within my business. I was excited about the fact that, I had set all these goals for myself and they were coming into fruition. So I wanted to be able to help other people take those first steps as well. So what it is a step-by-step guide for that, foundation, point to figure out what it is you want to do, figure out what your vision is, and then start to get yourself in alignment with it. So that's there for you guys to check out, how to set your goals with ease.
Oh my gosh, obsessed. I need to download it and go through it as well. I'm so excited. Well, again, Emily, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And yeah, I hope everyone has a fab day. Make sure you leave us a little comment, a little review. Let us know how you found this episode. And our next episode will be launching on Friday, which will be my time episode. So I'm so excited to have you guys there. And Emily, thank you again for being on the podcast.
So that's a wrap. If you loved today's episode, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and let us know why you loved it.
And if you know someone who needs to hear this, then send it their way and share it to your stories, tagging us at Time Money Mastery.
Feel like you're wanting just a little more? Jump on over to our Facebook community. You can find the link in the show notes.
That's all from us today, fam. We'll see you soon.